topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson Show. She is an author, and she wrote, "Thou Shalt Not Whine," the 11th commandment that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a reality TV golf personality with World High Stakes Golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and winologist expert. She is your featured host today on January Jones Sharing Success Stories. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones with her eclectic roster of guests as you learn life's lessons. These stories plus sharing equals success. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you are entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a glittery, glowing day. I'm January Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast today. You know about my new brand, Glitter Granny, but more about that later. For my listeners, let me ask you a question. Have you recovered from the election yet? Tell me, how do you feel about the results? Do you have any questions? How do you feel about our political system? Are there changes you would like to see done at some point in the future? Now tell me, have you ever heard about an amazing book entitled Erasing America, Broken Politics, Broken Country? If you can answer yes or maybe to any of these questions that I've asked, then you are in the right place, and I'd like to welcome you to the No Wine Zone, January Jones sharing senior success stories today. Now it's time, rest, relax, go get some wine and cheese and get some crackers and take a little break during this holiday madness. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. He has been on the show before, and he is a man who has earned a reputation as the equal opportunity critic. Someone willing to tell the truth no matter who it makes uncomfortable. He's earned a reputation as the equal opportunity critic. He is the author of Erasing America, Broken Politics, Broken Country, a refreshing yet serious look at today's off-the-rails political landscape. Welcome back to the show today, Rodger Friedman. Hi, Rodger. How are you doing?
I'm great, January. It is so nice to see you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. And I want to share with our listeners that we're especially happy for Rodger because he is recovering from hip replacement surgery. And that is, as I know myself, that's a big accomplishment. I'm so glad you're doing well now.
Thank you. I'm glad to be off of the walker and off of the cane, but I still have 6 to 8 physical therapy sessions left starting tomorrow.
Okay, well, those are important. Those are important for sure. Well, you know, I wanted you back on the show so we could talk about the election because you had been on the show before the election. At that point, we didn't know who was going to win and what was going to happen. And as a conservative, I know you're very happy with the results, aren't you?
Yes, you mean who was going to win and who was going to whine?
Well, there's no whining allowed here.
There's a lot of whining going on, January.
Oh, I know there is. And, you know, as full disclosure, As you know from the past, I'm a Goldwater girl, and I voted for Reagan. And I've had a history of supporting Republican presidents. In this last election, I did not. I supported Kamala Harris because I'm desperate to have a woman president before I die in my lifetime. However, I do want the best for this country. And I know a lot of people, despite the whining, we all want that for America, don't we, Rodger?
Yeah, we all want the best, but I look at it this way, and I understand how you want to see a woman president before you're done with this trip around the world.
Okay.
And there were many people, some years back when they were talking about Obama, that they wanted to see an African American president, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I want to look at the person, their experience, their credentials, their character, and how they carry themselves.
Right.
And I don't want to vote for someone just because of their sex or just because of their color.
Oh, I agree.
I learned a long time ago a very difficult lesson. And that is, you don't vote for someone because you like them. You got to be mature enough to say, it's okay that I don't like them. I don't want them in my living room. I won't pour them a Cabernet and give them some cheese and crackers. But who you're voting for is the person best fit for the job at this time, not the person you like the best. Because I think there's only been 2 presidents that I've really liked. John Kennedy, because I'm a good-looking guy and I was 7, and Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay? Other than that, I wouldn't let them into my house. Okay. But still,
Absolutely.
right person for the right job, the right time.
Well, I would have invited Eisenhower too.
I get it. Okay.
Well, you're right about that, because there are some presidents that I certainly would never want to play golf with.
Right.
As we both know. But I'm asking questions. I'm going to be asking you some questions today, because I'd like to have some answers that I can share with some of the other seniors in my life.
Sure.
Senior friends at DAV, Disabled American Veterans Company A, Sarasota. We go there, and we also go to Dog Park every day. The supermarket for sure. We talk to people, and also at our country club. And I kind of have noticed, what you think about this, but I kind of call it a portfolio politics, because now everyone's portfolio is really doing well. Don't you agree?
Yeah. The markets, the equity markets in the United States had a terrific 2023 and a terrific 2024. That's after a disastrous 2022. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from my experience, about 44 years in financial services, that in every 5-year period of time, you'll normally have 1 to 2 bad years. That's history. And it's not whether I like it or I think it'll happen. That's history. And you could either look at history or you could look at chaos theory. I prefer history.
Yes. That's interesting. You should say that, because we met with our financial counselor this past week, and he also used that as an explanation of how it all unfolds historically, and it has a rhythm and a pattern, the yin and the yang, so to speak, that we see back and forth in politics.
Yeah. But do you know that the markets don't care whether a president is Democratic or Republican?
Exactly.
That does not have a significant outcome on the performance of the equity markets.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I didn't get the memo. Well, but you got to remember, January, that although that's the person where the buck stops, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they don't run the entire country. They don't, establish the price of oil. They don't establish interest rates. They don't establish tax policy. Congress does that. So it's not all the one person that you could point to who is responsible for everything going on, because we have a really big country. The country is not the size of Rhode Island. It's not 46 miles long. Okay. So what's going on in Illinois is totally different than what's going on in San Diego or Florida, for that matter.
Oh, for sure, for sure. One of the big questions I'm hearing, and people are talking, how they do and speculating, is this relationship that we see unfolding in front of us between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And we now see the wealthiest man in the world, now best friends with the most powerful man in the world.
Kind of interesting times we live in.
Absolutely. And I have to feel that they both are in this relationship for their own specific reasons. How long do you think this is going to last? And what's your
I don't know. I'm sure that Donald could come up with his old line, "You're fired," at any time. Personally, I don't think that'll happen. I get the idea. Elon Musk is a visionary. If you go to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's Tony Stark, aka Iron Man.
Yeah.
While everyone else is thinking, how do we get to the International Space Station in one piece? Thank you, Boeing. He's, trying to put communities on Mars. Okay. He's just a very, very forward thinker. And my sense is you don't get one of these coming around all too often.
Yeah.
And I think that Mr. Trump wants to leverage that friendship and help him do as much as he can to improve the government, improve the country, cut out waste. And as long as they're all getting along, talking to each other, have at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Trump definitely would be keen to jump on that spaceship and go on that ride to Mars,
right,
and enjoy it with him. We were toying with getting a Tesla, and I was kind of in the waiting line. And then I happened to read the biography that was out about Elon Musk.
The one from Walter Isaacson?
Yes. And I decided, maybe I don't really want to have this guy to dinner.
Well, that's just like what I was saying before. In order to vote for someone, you're voting for the most competent person for the job at the time. You're not voting for who you want at your dinner table.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I will say for Tesla, when you ask for your deposit money back, they send it right to you. So I think that's a plus for them.
Right. I like companies that do what they say, who are prompt and abide by their promises.
Okay. Now, we all know that there's been this enormous, when Trump was in office, he did a tax cut for the wealthy. And there's talk now that he would like to, when he gets back in, make it permanent and expand it. And for our situation, that's good news for us. And I'm sure it's good news for you too. But my question, and I'm sure my other senior friends are wondering, what does this do to the average American who has to pay regular taxes?
I have to
play out
nicely take issue with how you fashioned your question.
Oh, okay.
You called it a tax break for the wealthy.
Yeah.
So if you go to the Federal Reserve Bank or the IRS websites, you'll find that the wealthy pay the vast majority of all taxes. Okay. So you can't. Now, remember, in this country, you're not allowed to treat one American different than the other. Equal opportunity clause of the Constitution. Everyone must be treated equally. And if you make a tax cut, you cannot make a tax cut only for African-American bus drivers in Louisiana. You cannot make a tax cut only for Burger King employees in Florida. Okay. The
Right.
tax cut has to be across the board, all Americans, and there are certain brackets. So you cannot make a tax cut for the middle class without making a tax cut for the wealthy. The math doesn't allow it.
Okay.
Okay. So when you're saying the wealthy did get a tax cut, yes, indeed they did. So did the middle class. So did the lowest earning people in the country. You can't have one without the other. The math won't support it.
Okay. You know, it's interesting. So many, oh, you know what? It's time for a break. And we're going to hear about my book that just came out, Living and Dying Without Whining. 80 Years of Magical Moments.
Producing, Living and Dying Without Whining. A memoir, 80 Years of Magical Moments, written by January Jones. Patriotic moments, revealing moments, thrilling and comforting moments, sassy moments, the age of Aquarius, exciting moments, reality moments, career moments, touching moments, with many, many more magical moments. Available at Amazon.com and Audible.com.
Rodger Friedman. It's nice to have you back with us, Rodger, and it's so much fun to talk to you after this election has taken place. Another question I'd like to bring up with you is the question everyone has about our age group, seniors. My husband's 84, I'm 81, Social Security, Medicare. You know, we feel relatively safe because of our age, but I'm concerned about our children and our grandchildren. Will they ever get Social Security or Medicare? How will this affect them?
Remember, Social Security, as it has been fashioned, was created by an act of Congress. Okay.
Yes.
And Congress alone has the power to change it. Okay. So I've heard many studies that suggest the Social Security Trust Fund is broke. They'll run out of money in 6 years, 12 years, 16 years, 20 years. It depends who you're reading. But it occurs to me, and I did have a conversation about a year ago with a very bright sixth grader. And we spoke about Social Security.
Okay.
And I briefed him on what it was. And I said, you know, this is kind of how it works. And I said, if the president asked you, what would you recommend to Congress? How would you fix Social Security? He came up with actually a couple of bright ideas.
Okay.
So let me share it with you.
Sure.
Now, I'm not going to get the numbers exactly right. I don't remember them. But when you're employed, you pay half of the Social Security tax and your employer pays the other half.
Right.
I think it's around 6 1/4 each. I'm maybe off by a little. And so 6 1/2 and 6 1/2, that's 13%. So what if the amount that you had to pony up went to 14 or 14 1/2, split evenly? So it's maybe 1 1/8% more for the employer and the employee. Not enough to break the bank. Okay. Number two, the earliest you can get Social Security retirement benefits is age 62. And the age at which you must begin receiving distributions is age 70.
70.
So we all know people are living longer. Okay. Medical advances, et cetera, et cetera. Why not make the earliest age 63 1/2? Make the maximum age 71 1/2 or 72. That would go a distance to help. But the third and most important item is this. So when you think about Social Security, you think, I'm paying in all this money and I'm eventually going to get an income that lasts for my lifetime and
Mm-hmm.
is indexed for inflation. Okay. So for people that make a lot of money, only the first, if I remember correctly, $168,000 or so is subject to Social Security taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you earn $250,000 a year, for example, you're only paying Social Security tax on the first 168.
Okay.
Okay. What if they took the cap off of that 168 and made it 250, 300, 500, or no cap at all?
Wow. Wow.
People whine and bitch. Remember, this is a no whining zone. So they
Right?
bitch. But the point is that
Yeah.
if you put in those three things, my guess is that Social Security will last another 50 to 75 years.
Wow.
It's
That
a matter of political will, and only Congress has the power to do it.
exactly. Exactly. This isn't anything that
Yeah.
a president can just go in and change
No,
overnight.
and do you remember? You remember the Resolution Trust Corporation after the savings and loan crisis back
Yeah.
in the 80s?
Yeah. Yeah.
We had all these savings and loans that had made these loans that were all literally worthless.
Yes.
And with a vote and a signature, Congress and the president created the Resolution Trust Corporation, which bought up all these bad loans from the savings and loans, made them whole,
Uh-huh.
and then sold the loans to investors. And they insured them, rated them AAA by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, they solved the problem. They
Right.
had the political will. Because remember, the S&L crisis was a crisis. The
Yeah.
FDIC exists today, but do you remember FSLIC, the Federal Savings and Loan Insurance Corporation, which doesn't exist anymore?
Oh, okay. Wow.
FSLIC went broke, but FDIC is still there.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a matter of changing the law to
Mm-hmm.
solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Congress has the power to change the law.
Yeah. And we all know that Social Security is imperiled. And we all know people have been looking at it from different angles and different views. But what you have just suggested is actually the first time.
Hey, that's from a sixth grader. I'm not that smart.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, do you know, maybe we should talk to this sixth grader and see if we could nominate him for
We should elect them for Congress.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I want him in the cabinet.
Oh, I know.
Speaking of cabinet, what are your thoughts on what's happening with these nominations of people that have passed the test, the loyalty test with flying colors, but that's being questioned by many sources as to whether they're the ones that should be given these positions? Do you have any thoughts on
That's a wonderful question. There are always naysayers. Okay.
Yes. Oh, sure.
That's
for
even
sure.
the time where Jesus walked the earth, there were people who were unbelievers or non-believers. Okay?
Right, right.
But I look at it this way. I'm glad Matt Gates or Getz, I don't know how to pronounce his name, was tossed off there because he had a lot of baggage. Whether the sexual allegations were true or not, I have no clue. But I know where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
Yeah.
Okay. But he was replaced with a superb choice, the Attorney General of Florida. I think her name's Pat Bondi or something.
Okay, I'm not.
I think that's a magnificent choice. She was a prosecutor for 20 years. She was the Attorney General of Florida for 8 years.
Okay.
Okay. I think she's a magnificent pick.
Okay.
And I wrote about this last week on my Equal Opportunity Times that I send out bi-monthly. That is, I'm not going to second guess the president's choices. I am sure that he has access to information about these people that I don't. And he made the choices, with his circle around him, and they felt that was the best choices. I am not going to boo-boo him, and I'm going to say, let's wait 2 years and see what happens. The reason I don't say 4 is, remember, we're going to have midterm elections with Congress in 2 years.
Thank
And
goodness.
1/3 of the Senate is up for a vote, and 100% of the House. It might flip blue. Mr. Trump may not be able to get his everything through in the 4 years. Nobody knows. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
And we'll see how well his choices do. He could always resort to his old line, "You're fired." Okay.
Yeah.
He did it before. I'm sure he'll do it again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could see that happening. It's just that there's been such a outrage, especially about the Robert Kennedy Jr. When
People either love him or hate him.
I didn't hear you.
People either love him or hate him.
Well, that's the Kennedys. That's how you feel.
Yeah, I have no opinion.
Yeah. Okay. I was just stunned when I saw that all these Nobel laureates had come out, 75 or so, and they had reasons for saying they did not like this. And I'm sure, I hope that when we get to these confirmations, that they'll be public and that people can hear what these objections are. And I know that the senators will be working very hard on this.
You know, you just said something that rang a bell. So, all those Nobel laureates said this, that, or the other. Do you remember back to the whole Russiagate thing, or it was the Hunter, this, that, or the other?
Yeah.
And all of these people in national security, they got like 20, 30, or 40 people to sign their name to a letter saying that, Trump is wrong. And meanwhile, he was vindicated. So all of these people in the national security complex, all said one thing, and it wasn't the truth. Okay. So just because a whole lot of people say something, it doesn't mean it's true.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, it does give everyone moments of pause.
Oh, and the media is all over it.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of media, before we go to our next break, I do want to plug your book, your newsletter, your website. So could you share that information?
Very simply, my book is called Erasing America, Broken Politics, Broken Country. It is available at, I think, the last bookstore in the galaxy, which is Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart too.
Okay.
But also I have a website. I'm known as the Equal Opportunity Critic, so I made it simple, eocritic.com. You could sign up for my free newsletter. I send it out twice a month. It's called the Equal Opportunity Times. It'll give you a giggle 2 Sundays of every month and enlighten you as to some of the madness going on in the media and the government, whether state, local, or federal. And you could also see a lot of videos on there and see a lot of content.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then that Equal Opportunity, that's a brilliant brand. I love it. And, it's almost as brilliant as my new Glitter Granny brand. And I want everyone.
You have that on YouTube?
Oh, yes. That.
Yeah, I have Equal Opportunity Critic on YouTube also. I have dozens of videos.
Well, YouTube is the only thing to do these days. It's either you do YouTube or you do a podcast. And that's the only way you get out there. And we're going to hear about my Glitter Granny website right now. And it's a great opportunity if you haven't done your Christmas shopping and you're thinking of trying to get a unique gift that glitters.
Welcome to Glitter Granny Gifts to Give or to Get. Hosted by January Jones, aka Glitter Granny, and her Golden Doodle Ginger Ale. If you're a granny who wants to glitter and glow, it's time to join us for a sparkling shopping experience that will be unique and so very special. Whenever you need a spectacular gift, Granny will help you find it. Along with gifts for family, friends, and holidays, there are even glitter gifts for coworkers, in-laws, doctors, and you can even find something for your friend who has everything. If you need a really good gag gift, you'll find it here. Hats, canes, shoes, accessories. Now, just go to glittergranny.com and check it out.
Welcome back with my friend Rodger Friedman. And he's so comforting and wonderful to talk to during this holiday season. And he also reminded us of a very important fact in life is that when we're not happy with things, in 2026, there will be another election. So it's very important to stay involved and keep track of what's going on so you can make an intelligent decision when it comes time to vote. Let's talk about this tariff thing. Some people say, oh, it's horrible, it's not going to work. And other people say, oh, this is the second coming of economics. Do you have any thoughts about tariffs yourself?
Well, I'm by no means an expert on tariffs, but I remember reading the paper over a number of years. I remember when various countries were charged with dumping. Dumping means that they sell their products in our markets literally below cost.
Okay.
And it was called anti-dumping. And the president or the Congress established fines or tariffs for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was $1,000 of structural steel coming in, there might be a $200, $400, or $500 tariff or tax for it to come into the country.
Okay.
And, that, kind of swayed the behavior of that other country who was dumping their cheap products in our markets. When it comes to China, Mexico, Canada, he's using the tariffs, Donald Trump is using the tariffs as a weapon. Okay. So, for example, Mexico.
Yes.
You get control of your border, or everything that comes across has 100% tariff. Okay. You watch how quickly they get control of their side of the border. Same thing with Canada.
Okay. But my question still is, who pays the tariff?
Well, there's a lot of discussion that the consumer will pay it. I am not at all certain that that's how all the money shakes out. I don't know enough about the subject. Okay. But what I can tell you, I remember about a month ago seeing some kind of ad, maybe it was on YouTube, I'm not sure, where Trump was talking about John Deere because they started building their tractors in Mexico. And he threatened John Deere with 100% tariff if they don't bring their production back to the United States.
Okay.
So, I see the whole tariff issue as a weapon, kind of mass destruction, kind of like nuclear arms that, you put it out there, but you hope it's never used.
Yeah. Okay. That is definitely, because the way it is explained, it is a very confusing issue.
It's very confusing. It's very technical, but he's using it to influence behavior, which I actually think is brilliant.
Okay. Well, we will see how there's so much to
it's a very complicated issue.
Oh, yeah. And also the other issue that is just terrifying a lot of people who are, like most of us from immigrants, the thought of not the thought, but there's actually going to be mass deportations. And that is a terrifying thing for so many people in this country. I was thinking about how many people it affects probably that work for us just in our little home here in Florida. And we're talking about 4 or 5 families that definitely will probably be affected. What are your thoughts about this mass deportation?
The first people that they're going to focus on, and rightfully so, is the criminal element. Get
Okay.
them the hell out of the country. They don't belong here. They never should have been allowed to stay, which is in Biden and Harris's lap, which I could never, ever vote for Harris because she was complicit in that. She was the border czar. Okay. So it's
Okay.
all in her lap. But, once you get past, the military age single males, those with criminal records, and then you have families and people that have been here for years. January, that they've spoken about, maybe 10 to 12 million. In my mind, I am almost certain the number is between 16 and 20 million.
Mm.
And remember that not all of them are paying taxes. Many of them are on the public dole. As a matter of fact, the
Let
center.
me
Go on.
Let me just ask you about that on the public dole. My impression is you don't get on the public dole unless you are signed up for Social Security and Medicare. And
That,
you
you know,
only,
that, that's an interesting point, but the
you can,
Center for Immigration Studies,
you
I
can
think
only
it's
do that.
CIS.com,
Yeah.
has published facts that of all of the people that have come across during the Biden administration, over 70% of them are receiving public assistance.
What type of public assistance can they get? I'd like an
Well, public
example.
assistance, maybe New York City is putting them up at the Roosevelt Hotel. Maybe they're getting a monthly debit card. Maybe they're getting phones. Maybe
No,
they're getting education. Maybe
it,
they're getting free health care. I don't
I,
know. All
I don't
public.
see I don't see this happening in our neighborhood. Now you're
Well,
saying
you
this
might
is
not see it
happening.
in your neighborhood, but it's happening from coast to coast.
I
Go to
would
the Center for Immigration Studies website and start looking at the numbers harshly. You will come away with a very sick feeling as to how many hundreds of billions of dollars we have spent on people that by crossing over into the country illegally, they committed a felony.
Okay. They're saying that they said there were 13,000 murderers that were going to be released into the streets. And so apparently I fact checked it. And then apparently this is a number they pulled out from 40 years, the statistics there. So I really, when I'm looking at most immigrants that we have encountered who are lovely people, most of them do not want to make trouble. They do not want to cause trouble. They just want to work and pick the lettuce and collect the money and support their families.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
but the latest media reports over
yeah.
the last week in New York City, 58,000 criminals and over 1,000 gang members are in the 5 boroughs of New York City. They have all been released into society.
Well, that's
on Joe and Kamala.
that's
Okay?
something I'd like to fact check.
They should have never been allowed here. Take a look at the New York Times, the Daily News, the New York Post, Crane's New York. They all ran the articles.
Yeah, because my impression is that number is something to be fact checked, because I feel that from the immigrants that we've seen and known and met who work for us, that's not an issue. These
But
are not.
remember, you're in a microcosm. If you were living in Beverly Hills, I would say, well, you might have the same opinion, okay? Or purchase New York, where the Clintons live in Westchester County, or where Mr. Obama lives in Hawaii, or in the Colorado District of Columbia. There are all sorts of places where wonderful people who have worked for many years, never had a criminal record, except for the fact that they're illegal. They did not follow the law in coming into this country.
Okay, so then let's jump to the birthright situation. And obviously,
Very complicated situation.
this isn't something that I think you can just do by a president declaration. I think this is something that would have to be an amendment to the Constitution, which makes it a much more difficult thing. But yet it's so disturbing to think that this is what Trump wants to do.
Well, the whole issue is disturbing, but I think that
Yes.
what he is trying to do in large part is contain the damage caused to this country by the Biden-Harris administration. Okay? Because the amount of illegal immigration has skyrocketed over the last 4 years, no matter whose numbers you look at. I look at the Customs and Border Protection website, and I use the numbers from the federal government.
Okay. I've been around 80 years now. And quite frankly, that is not a problem just for the last 4 years. This has been going on for 20, 30 years.
You're absolutely right. But if you compare the number of illegals that came in under Trump's administration and under the Biden-Harris administration, the numbers are multiples of Trump.
Okay. Well, the problem I'm saying is we have it, no matter whether it's a Democratic or Republican. And it's been ongoing, and
The question is, how are you going to mitigate the damage?
What frustrated me was when they had a bipartisan agreement. This was before the election, and Trump asked his people not to do it because
it was a terrible agreement. And I agree with the fact that Congress voted it down, because what it would have done is establish 6 million people coming in each year legally, which is an insane amount that this country cannot absorb. And that's why it was voted down, and I agree with it.
But don't you think something has to be said for the fact that this was a bipartisan thing?
It was a bad bill.
And Republicans
It was a bad bill, January. You don't vote for a bad bill.
Well, then why did they write it? Why did the Republicans?
I cannot tell you why. Well, remember that everything that's written is done in a conference committee, okay? And they come up with what they see as a solution that they both could live with. But I'm glad it was voted down, because I think it was bad law.
Well, that may be so, but it's also very frustrating.
Yes, it is.
For people our age or any age to look at this Congress and the fact that they can't do something bipartisan, which
they keep kicking the can down the road, which is their superpower.
And this isn't last 4 years. It goes back 20, 30 years.
Sure.
Very frustrating in our entire country for that.
That's why we have continuing resolutions, and we can't get a budget bill done because they keep kicking the can down the road.
Yeah. Well, my hope, and I know you probably will agree with me, that is that I hope we're going forward with less of this retribution, revenge,
and acrimony. Yes, I hope so too.
Yeah, as a senior, I find that so devastating, because I want our children and grandchildren to have hope.
I want them to have a safe and stable America. A stable America with $37 trillion in debt is not a stable republic.
Oh, no. And this keeps happening every administration that comes through. Okay, we're almost at the end. Do you have any other thoughts you might want to share with us during this holiday season?
I would hope that people take the long view, okay?
Okay.
Do not make a decision, Mr. Trump or the House or the Senate is no good because I watched a YouTube video and this is what happened, okay? People have to be more mature and smarter than that. They have to get information from a variety of sources. I spoke to a cousin a long time ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, and I said, where do you get your information from? National Public Radio, the Washington Post, and the New York Times, okay? She's looking at all one viewpoint. I say, get multiple viewpoints. Okay?
I agree with you completely on that, because I know with seniors, if you find out that they watch Fox, you know immediately what they're all about. And then if they only watch
CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah. And what do you say, in your opinion, what's the best place to get news? That would be...
I don't know that there's a single best. I do look at Newsmax and
Newsmax?
One American News, or OAN network. I also look at, I'm embarrassed to say it, I look at the New York Post simply because I grew up with it, and it makes me laugh my ass off, with their headlines.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're still that generation where we get 3 papers delivered. We just, aside from doing all the puzzles,
right.
we're still of that generation that
but
we
I
love.
just hope people take the long view and come and build their conclusions, build their opinions over a period of time. For example, 2 years from now, what has Trump done on the economy, on taxes, on immigration, on Social Security, on national defense, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, and the problem there is he has had some issues with truth.
So has Mr. Biden. I will not pardon my son. Oh, yeah, well, I just pardoned my son, and here's why.
We could do a whole show.
Of course we can. Of course we can.
Because we could talk about Hunter Biden, Steve Bannon, and you go down.
Talk about it all. But I understand that today, President Biden broke the record in the amount of pardons and commutations of any president in the history of the country.
And, I was kind of glad I don't know the extent of it, but I was kind of glad to hear about it, because I've always been upset about so many people who were sent to prison for marijuana and life sentences. People were punished in the years we were, growing up and aging, horribly unjust. And these people, their lives have been totally wasted. And guess what? Now it's legal.
Yeah, and now they're still wasted.
Yeah, it's so sad. Well, yeah, but the part where people were sent to prison.
I hear you.
So those people, there are a lot of people I personally would like to see pardoned. That'll be an interesting. Now, will you come back again?
Come back again to vote or on your show?
Yes, to my show.
I'll do both.
Wonderful. I hope your hip is better.
Thank you. It's getting better. I'm walking every day. I'm going to go to the gym in about an hour.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We go to the gym 3 times a week because my husband does cardiac rehab. And so many people out there trying to do better and get better. What kind of a holiday? Will you have family with you for this holiday?
Oh, I'm going to have family here, which is nice. My daughter will come in from Atlanta, and we'll all be together, and it's a special time of year.
Oh, yeah, for us too. And we're going to celebrate the Jonason family winter games, where all of our 18 family grandkids and people get together and they compete against each other, which is pictures I've shared on glittergranny.com. So right now we're going to say goodbye, and thank you so much, Rodger, for coming and visiting with us.
You're very, very welcome, January. Have a wonderful holiday.
We've enjoyed our time together. We've tried to be informative and inspiring, and we've tried to give you different viewpoints about different things. We're going to take a break for 2 weeks for the holidays, but I'll be back in January in the No Wine Zone. Be sure to share our stories and our show with everyone you know. Remember, it's time to stop whining and then start smiling. And if that doesn't work, then you can just start eating chocolate.
And go to Equal Opportunity Critic or eocritic.com.
Okay.
Take care, all.
Okay. Happy holidays.
Thank
you.
Take
care and stay safe. And
you too.
Go to Glitter Granny to do your shopping. Bye-bye.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you can think it, you can do it. That's what all of our guests have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own story with your family and friends. We hope that our guest stories will encourage you to explore an equation in your future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others will enable you to be successful too. Always remember, your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you explore the wonderful world of January Jones.